I'm Sarah Bivens. I am a lifestyle coach with the YourDay balance game, and I'm sitting here with Day Adeogba, the creator of the YDBG, and we're going to talk a little bit about what the YourDay balance game is and some of the delicious things that you learn as you play the game and how it really empowers your life in so many ways. So kick it off for me and tell me a little bit just what is the game and wherever you want to go, right? We can go so many places with this conversation.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you. Once again, I'm Day, and I'm the co-creator of the game. We're all creating it. Also the architect. And the YourDay Balance Game is a health and fitness game inspired by love, accountability, and balance. And that's the key. Those are what we call the inspirators. So we look at health and fitness from a whole new lens. Because when I was growing up, I saw health and fitness as for competition or for battle. My father was in the military. So I use it from that context, and even though I'm using fitness for battle and competition, it's not the healthiest.
Right.
Yeah, so it took me a lot of years to realize how to use this tool most effectively. And then later on, I use it for vanity. Like, how can I build bigger muscles to attract the ladies? So all that, those are ways many people use it, and they can still use it that way. At the same time, we invite you to see it uniquely.
I want to jump in because health and fitness, I feel like you delineated two of the most common reasons why people would take time for their health and fitness. One, in a defense, right? So how do I not get a certain disease, or how do I not waste a certain weight or whatever? So they're kind of doing it in the defensive route, taking care of health and fitness, or the vanity route. I want to look a certain way. I want to be a certain size. Those are probably the biggest ways I see people engage in their health and fitness, is for one of those reasons.
And well said, and that's okay.
Right.
Those are just certain ways you can do it, but I'm offering a unique way of looking at it called the YourDay Balance Game, which creates a totally different result in your life, which we'll get to eventually.
Okay.
So what does health and fitness to us? It's not for vanity, not for competition, it's not for war, and it can be used for that. And when you get on that YouTube and screen, you'll see people use it like that all day long.
Yeah.
That's why we offer you an alternative that you might be interested in being enrolled in, right? So health and fitness to us is a performance lab. That changed the game. And it took me years to see it like that, because I saw it like most people saw it. But now it's a performance lab. What is that saying? Oh, so much. It opens up a new world of possibilities. Like, for instance, now I become the vehicle. And now this vehicle, this body, is a vehicle that transports me through life. You know, being a father, being a CEO, being an executive, all those are the things that take me down that road of life. And now I'm driving it, and we all are driven. We work with very successful people.
Yeah.
And so since we're driven, we drive those wheels, we roll those wheels off. And so we find ourselves in a mechanic shop.
Yeah.
Mechanic shop
Broken
is dark.
down.
Put me together.
Yeah.
I'm broken down. Give me that pill. Give me that psychiatry. Give me whatever. I got to get back on that road because the kids, the wife, everybody's depending on me, clients. So that's natural, and that's how we see it. But now that we see it as a performance lab, you can either spend time in the mechanic shop or the performance lab, because either way, you're still a vehicle and you drive that vehicle every day. So both have different results. Neither are good, bad, right, or wrong, because we don't look at it from that lens. We look at it from what is. And so when we say it's a performance lab, then in a performance lab, we do two things. And this is what I really emphasize when I communicate to people, is in a performance lab, we measure and we improve.
Yeah.
And in a mechanic shop, we fix and maintain.
Right.
And so that's cool. So if I'm broken down, fix me, put me back together, maintain, I keep putting that same version on the road and I go. But what if I looked at health and fitness as a performance lab and I proactively take it off that road every week?
Yeah.
And I measure something and I improve it. I measure and I improve. I don't wait for it to break down. I'm ahead of it. I'm proactive. That's how we play this game, YourDay Balance Game. You don't have to do it, but it is a performance lab. And if you want to put that newer version of Sarah on that road, that 2025, that's so beautiful, that rides smoothly, that can catch those bumps, the rain coming, the windshields are working, the heat's coming, the AC's working, and people are loving your ride, then I suggest spend a little more time in the performance lab than mechanic shop.
Proactive versus reactive.
Yes.
That's one of the biggest things I'm getting there.
Very well said. So if we say we're in a performance lab where we measure and improve, then the question is, what are we measuring?
Yeah.
Because every lab measures what it wants. So if we were old school, then we say, let's measure how tight Sarah is and how far she can run. And a lot of other health and fitness games do that, which is great. This one we're measuring for something unique. And those are the inspirators of the game. So we said this game is inspired by love, accountability, and balance. And that's what we're measuring for. And subsequently, that's what we're improving.
Okay.
So love, accountability, and balance. And that's what resonates with you. You'll love this game. And if you want to magnify those attributes in your life, you'll play this game and you'll never stop. So in this game, you have many different definitions of love, accountability, and balance. So we're very clear on what that is in this game.
Yes, let's do that.
Because we don't want to get foggy. So I'm going to communicate 3 attributes in each one of those inspirators.
Okay.
So love, that means connection, understanding, and affection. So if you're interested in a deeper connection to Sarah, a greater understanding of who you really are, how infinite you are, and really learning how to really be affectionate and nurture Sarah, you'll love this game, because that's how we move towards that love. Accountability is trust, measurement, and feedback. So a lot of people want to build trust for themselves, and it's hard because a lot of times you let yourself down. You don't do what you say you're going to do, and you lose trust, and you never really get momentum. So really measuring how well you trust something greater, more powerful than yourself, like a process. Like this game, we have hundreds of thousands of hours in the process that works, or a principle. Learn to trust that. Nevertheless, trust, then we measure it. If you don't measure, you don't ground in reality. A lot of people are thinking they're somewhere where they're not because emotionally they're driven, which is fine. But if you don't ground in measurement, then you don't ground in reality. A lot of times you find yourself in denial and upset and you're a victim for the fact that you're not really experiencing it. So you pretend that you're experiencing it because you can't deal with the reality that's not happening.
Yeah.
And finally, feedback. Feedback is essential. All of nature has feedback loops in it. All of nature. And when you break that feedback loop, you stop improving. Evolution stops. It's part of what creates evolution. So human beings, we always break it with denial and numbing. Finally, balance. Balance is the third inspirator that we measure for in this game. And balance has to do with perspective. One thing we do is, like even in this conversation, we're going to expand your perspective. And your paradigm is not going to be the same. We're going to boop, 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 open it up. And we can expand that perspective where it's more ubiquitous, omnipresent, universal. Then things start connecting differently. You're like, oh, you start realizing the connection you have with everything, especially yourself. Next, we said perspective and wholeness. What does it mean to be whole and complete? A lot of people don't stop to ask that question. So they just get to 1 or 2 aspects of themselves and are walking around so incomplete, looking for everything else to complete me.
Yes.
Sarah, you complete me,
Right?
When you have that question of wholeness, what it is to be whole and complete, then you start seeing the HOLE, the holes. And when you can start healing those holes, then all of a sudden you're able to manage and keep that power that's naturally there and build upon it because you're not losing it out the back door unconsciously. So we said perspective, wholeness, and finally centeredness, which is what balance is to us. It's like, how do I get to the center of Sarah? Like when life pulls me too far right, too far left, your body's constantly centering itself and you experience this thing called balance. So most people are on the outskirts of their life, in the eddy, in the swirl, and chaotic, right? We teach you how to get to the center of you where that peace lies. And how can I center myself moment to moment? So when we put all that together, it spells LAB, which is lab. And we realize after doing this for almost 2.5 decades that when it comes together, it creates this thing called true independence. And that's the big game, true independence, because that is, and listen closely, that is the antidote to codependency.
Okay, keep going. So that's the antidote to codependency. So let's unpack codependency a little bit and bring that back with everything that you just set up that the game does, and the game does brilliantly. What is codependency in a nutshell? And then how does that tie in with everything that you just said?
I'm glad you asked. Yes. Codependency is an addiction to taking care of others or working at the cost of yourself. And it costs you yourself, you know what I mean? So once again, it's an addiction to taking care of others or working at the cost of your health and the cost of yourself due to moral obligations or feeling trapped by your responsibilities and values. So this moral obligation, like it's the right thing to do because it's been coded in your operating system since young. This is the right thing. A lot of people believe in right and wrong a lot and they want to still hold on to it. This is the right thing. And we free them from that right or wrong. We just find out what really works, what's effective, what's healthy. So that moral obligation will get you locked in on something, even if it's to your detriment, to your demise. And so that also feeling this responsibility, being the shero or the hero, like, Sarah's got to save the day. That's what she always does. Everyone's counting on me. That's what I've been born to do. And that carrying that weight, Atlas, on your shoulders is literally, like a cross. Yeah,
that sort of sacrificial thing that we do that I'm sure many mothers can relate to. Yeah.
Carry that cross. So people feel obligated to carry the cross. Like, I feel trapped by carrying the cross. And finally, it's your values. It's what's most important to what's meaningful because it was coded between 0 and 4 years old into your operating system. So moral obligation, trapped by your responsibilities and values, those are strong drivers. And they'll drive you right into your oblivion, right into your destruction. That's why it's an addiction. Addiction means it robs you of your health, mentally, emotional, physical. It robs you over time. But initially, it didn't seem like a big deal. It's like a boiled frog. So that's what codependency is. And it's the totality of that definition.
Yeah.
Now, if you make it succinct, it's an addiction to your values. Yeah.
So then when you put it that way, it sounds like, or it would seem like, everyone has some level of codependency around something. And that was a big shift for me in terms of understanding and paradigm and perspective of what codependency is, because I thought codependency had to be the most extreme version of attachment. It means, you're in therapy, you're about to get divorced, it had to be the worst case scenario. But with what you just said, it sounds like everyone all over can have codependencies to any varying degrees in a lot of areas of life.
I love when people say, I'm codependent with my mother, I'm codependent with this person. I believe you're just codependent. And whatever is filling in at the time is filling in. It's literally showing up because it's a vibrational match to yeah. So it's not like I'm codependent here but not here. No, you're codependent.
Right.
That means the majority of your worth is coming from the outside in. And that's what it really is in a nutshell, that I get my meaning, my existence in life pouring and serving you. And if I'm not serving you and breaking my back to serve you, then who am I?
Yeah.
You see it with mothers who have empty nest syndromes, and leaders and nurses and doctors. Doctors take oath to serve and pour into you at the detriment of themselves. So that's what codependency is I'm going back because I'm doing the right thing and serving you and everybody. And I hope you guys appreciate it, which most of the time they don't. And I hope eventually you pour back into me, and that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And you go bye-bye.
Yeah.
So I will say yes. The majority of the world is set up that way because 100% of us are born what we call value-centered. And so you're correct, because no one comes in this world outside of that. We all come into this world value-centered.
Right.
Yes, and that is the operating system that leads to codependency every time. It's just, as you get older, it strangles you and entangles. I call it entanglements, right?
Yeah.
It tangles you up and just starts squeezing you. All of a sudden, you get overwhelmed by the strangulation of codependency.
Mm-hmm. The succinct definition of codependency that you gave was the addiction to the values. For the person who's thinking, what's wrong with my values? What's wrong with valuing family? What's wrong with valuing my religious community? What's wrong with valuing my work or money? Or what's wrong with that? What's the game's answer to that?
I love that question. Nothing.
Okay.
Because it's not right or wrong. It just is. We all start off in this world value-centered, and value-centered works until it stops working.
Yes, I want to go into that a little bit more because it comes up a lot in my coaching conversations. And I feel like it's a very important piece of information that we could remind ourselves of often. And so I'd just like you to unpack it a little bit more, what it means that values work until they don't.
Beautiful. First of all, it's very important to love this process and bring a loving lens towards it, because it's so easy to judge this, what I'm about to say. So I'm going to invite you to just stay open and
come
understand.
With love.
Yeah, just come with love and come with understanding. Just kind of wear it on. You don't have to land any position with it.
Right.
However, values are just beliefs or groups of beliefs that are important to you and very meaningful. I mean, it gets a lot of meaning, and all of a sudden it's what really matters in life. Like, wow, this is everything to me. This is me. And if this goes away, I don't exist. I'm going to fight for it. And when something's at your center, like a value-centered person, which we all start off, it means that's where you get your existence. And so it works for you, because to say what's meaningful for me is family, yeah, it can work for me. And now I'm around family. I do whatever I can to keep family around me, and they're pouring back into me. Christmas is coming. We're sitting around Christmas, and I'm just feeling great. They're loving me. I'm loving them. We're having hot chocolate. That works. It feels great. I'm feeling like I'm winning. I'm feeling loved. And then the next year, when they don't want to come to my Christmas party and they want to go to their relative's Christmas party they married somebody else, and I'm like, hold on, no. We always meet. Like, that's where it stops working. You know, it's important to me. When you come to Christmas and spend time with me, because I raised you, right? I put everything I can into your kids. Now you don't want to spend time with your mom. Like, why do you want to spend time with your friends and some vacation off? Like, come spend. All of a sudden, you start getting attached to it. Now they're not free to be, because they're too busy thinking, well, mom raised me her whole life and she was always there for Christmas. And you start playing this guilt game. And that's where it stops working, because You don't have the freedom to be and live. Now you have an obligation to the person that served you.
Yeah.
That's a great example where things stop working real quick. Mm-hmm. But something so beautiful called family and sitting around the Christmas tree was working. And also, a lot of times you have several values that are very important to you, and values always compete. Your own values.
Yeah.
You know, a great example is you might be married to an individual and you really value friends, but then you value family. And all of a sudden your husband comes to you and says, Sarah, I really want to go see the family this weekend. And then you have a friend saying, Sarah, I'm getting married. I only get married once. Now Sarah's torn. They're competing. What do? I don't want to tell this to my husband because he wants to see his family. But my friend gets married once. All of a sudden, you get, stalled.
Yeah.
They cancel each other. So that's how it's always going to be. It's not personal. Values are very much, they can either align or misalign, compete, not compete. That's what they do because it's your view. It's what's meaningful to you and everyone's unique.
Yeah.
So value-centered always works until it stops working. And when that's the center of your life, you're always going to run into someone who believes different, who has different choices, and that's when it stops working. Yeah. Why? Because once they start shifting, a value-centered person will say, I need to adopt. That's the right thing to do because I need to keep this in agreement. So they're shifting now. That's how I was raised. Outside in, I need to shift. And you keep shifting. And at first it looks fine, but then you're calling Sarah and Coach Day at 30, 40 years old and saying, I have no idea who I am.
Right.
I'm like, of course you don't, because you created so many different personalities to manage the most important things to you and keep them in the center of yourself because you're value-centered. Mm-hmm. So you got this personality of being a mother, personality of being a wife, personality of being a friend. And a lot of times they require different things. Yeah. And they're conflicting. And you're like, I'm just trying to keep it all together. So you're using all this mental and emotional energy, keeping all these values in the center, holding, trying to integrate them with emotions, and eventually burnout. Yeah. Every time. 3, 2, 1, burnout. Yeah. Insecurity. Who am I? I don't know. I'm on the outside. I'm not in the inside of myself. Mm-hmm. And finally, my energy's down. I'm depressed. Same patterns. And we see it over and over again, don't we? Yeah. So that's the idea of value-centered. However, as a coach, I do have a question for you. Okay. You know what I mean? We're in the season, and it's coming quick. This is November, and next month is Christmas. Yeah. And there's going to be a lot of lonely people out there.
Seasonally, the statistics tell us that. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where that depression creeps in, right? Yeah. So this is very real because someone right now is stirring. They're like, usually around this time, I have someone around me, and I don't have anybody. No one's here. And woo, Sarah, you've been playing this game for a long time now. Mm-hmm. What is love to you at this level of playing, and how do you use it to navigate these times called the seasons?
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. So to use part of what you broke down of love in terms of the game's context, that connection and that understanding and that affection, when I think about that, how does that look for me, and how does that play out as a verb, as an action, as a lifestyle? It really is that inside out approach versus outside in. So what you described of, I'm going to put and hang my well-being, my identity, my sense of self, my sense of purpose and meaning, I'm going to hang that on all the things around me I call values, and I'm going to hope for the best until one of those things kind of goes sideways, because that's what they do and that's the nature of it. And so I'm at the whim of that. I'm being pulled either which way by that. So how can I take a stand for that inside out approach of loving myself unconditionally? And so how do I do that? I make deposits. I make myself priority. I pour into myself and check in with myself hourly, sometimes multiple times within an hour, on how I'm feeling and how I'm feeling on multiple levels. You mentioned the body vehicle. How are all parts of my body vehicle feeling? And based on how it is, what do I need to adjust, or what do I need to auto-correct to get back on my path, to get back on what my sense of balance is? And that supports in times or circumstances, whether it be a season or a life circumstance, just to come back to that inside out, and remember that by hanging all of that on something outside of me, like you said, works until it doesn't. Those things will be cool until they're not. And so how can I shift and utilize what the game is all about, a principle-centered approach, to living my life, because a principle isn't going to move or shift. It just is what it is. So how can I use those to guide me versus a person or an entity outside of me?
Thank you. So real talk.
Yeah.
You're a mother, you're a wife, husband, 2 children, and they have demands.
Mm-hmm.
So the season's coming, nose is snot, pulling you this way, wants to go and play here. You're frazzled. How do you recenter? Like, how have these tools helped you recenter those moments, and how do you use it to get back to center? Real, like, practical steps.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Practical stuff. Because this is real. Like you said, married, working, 2 kids, all the things. So I'm going to pull from the game a specific tool that we have in the game, the Trust app. So the Trust app is huge, and it's my go-to place to look for. I mentioned deposits. How can I deposit into myself? What thing can I do right now that I've identified adds to my energy, to keep my energy up, to keep my margin high, to keep me in a space where not just a full cup, but an overflowing cup. And that's a phrase I heard a while back that I just love, and I bring back into my client conversations is, I'm no longer interested in giving from the cup. I'm preferring to give from the saucer. Okay. So that overflow. So how can I keep my cup so full that the overflow is what I give out, and I keep that cup full? And so how to do that, those habits, those intentional choices, and habits being thoughts too. So habits being thoughts, how I'm relating to things, and the physical things that I'm doing. So how do I have habits that pour back into me, are healthy, are energizing, and it's incremental, and it's on such a small daily minute by minute basis for me. It doesn't have to be this huge big overhaul. And I think that's how we, in our society, and what's kind of the general accepted narrative, we want the hack, we want the get it quick, or we want the thing that's just gonna take it from 0 to 100 instantly. And what I found is that's not how it plays out, at least not for me or for my clients, or for that longevity and sustainability that I'm playing for. So I bring it back to the day-to-day choices in terms of, what am I doing? What am I putting in my body? How am I moving my body? What am I putting in my ears? What kind of conversations am I having? So those are all of the things. And then I have people around me, intentionally chosen people around me that are about that too.
That's a big point right there. How big of a point does that play, like huge. Your tribe and your team? Huge,
because then on those days where it might be a little bit more difficult to do those things, I can draft off of the energy of the people around me, or I can call one of them up, or I can look to their examples. So just getting rid of the idea that any one of us are meant to or should or have to do it alone can be huge. And back to your question of those times where it's tough. So having people around me, but then having people around me who are playing for similar things makes all the difference. And so part of that crew, of a husband and 2 kids, having a husband who's up to this as well, that's a game changer in terms of being able to keep my energy where I ideally like it.
Yeah, that'd be nice, and it sounds ideal.
Yeah.
But then for a lot of people, the reality is they don't have the husband there, or the husband that's there
is bringing you down.
Yeah, because he's working so hard, he's tired, drinking his beer, sitting on the couch, and you're running everything, or vice versa. Like, how do you attract that kind of husband? Like, how did you do it?
Yeah, that's great.
How did you do it?
Yeah.
You got it.
We have to go back a bit in time there for that. How did I do it? So I was on a process and on a journey of, without the game yet, because I didn't have the context of the game at the time, but that choice of self-love and that choice of what am I attracting? What am I putting out there? And if I want to be experiencing something in a partner or a work environment or in my health, then what am I putting out there? And so it's one step at a time, I think, and it's a process, and it's a journey, and I don't think even like finding a partner, it's not end destination. So even when attracting the person and being in agreement that you'll do this thing, like that's not the end, because you're going to keep changing, growing, and evolving as people. So it's continuing to choose day in and day out who you're going to be, and then what sort of agreements you're going to make with the person you're with.
Agreements, huh?
Yeah.
So I had the privilege of watching you grow over the last, 12 years playing?
Yes.
It's been very amazing. And I watched how you made some very, very challenging choices. You were in that position and you knew that I can either compromise because I'm very value-centered, which you were at the time, aware that you're moving more principle-centered, and so you said I can either compromise or do what I know is a higher choice. Give me an example of that made a big difference in where you're at right now, because you say I no longer compromise for the sake of my marriage or my relationship here. And that stance created what I have now. Give me an example about how that created the relationship you have now, which is a husband that you guys are truly interdependent and synergistic.
Yeah. Ooh, that's great. That's really great. So, like you said, it's been multiple things over the years, and I'm sure he has his own examples too of what that looks like. And I think about one of the big value-based beliefs that he and I both had before getting into a relationship together. That was the emotional well-being, if you will, the emotional thermostat of me could be heavily impacted by my partner, or that even if we were on the same, even if it was low, that was indicative of this really intimate, close, connected relationship. Like, he feels this way, so I feel that way. You know, we're so connected in that way. And so to release that over time, when life serves up stuff, you know, there's challenges in work and family dynamics, there's challenges in having children and moving through the emotional pushes and pulls of that. And so getting challenged at what seemed like steady intervals of, am I going to allow his state to shift my state? And what I'm doing right now, is it shifting his state? You know, so just seeing that back and forth play out. And so that, for me, being able to really truly release my emotional state being predicated by his emotional state, I think was huge. And that showed up in lots of different ways over the years.
So what I'm hearing you say is that you took a stand to be responsible for your emotional state.
That's it. Yeah. And
independent of his state.
Yes.
And you worked hard. You're like, I'm going to keep realizing that I'm responsible for my overall state, and he can impact it, but I'm responsible for the majority of it. Is that what I'm hearing?
Huge. Absolutely. Yeah. That I'm the creator. I'm in the driver's seat of my experience, and that you're not just someone to come in and sweep me off my feet and all the problems go away, and that, you know, you walk in the room and it just immediately shifts everything, and the horns play, and it's not like that, or that's not what I would choose or prefer at this stage of the game now, knowing what I know and having experienced the kind of relationship I've experienced.
But that's the Bridgerton.
I know, that's what we're sold. That's what we're sold so hard.
Love it.
I mean, I grew up, Disney princess life, and that's what relationships and love is. So absolutely, that's the dream, right? But it works until it doesn't.
Would you say it's a value-centered perspective?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it works, because when you're on that horse trotting, it feels great, don't it?
Oh, gosh.
Until that thing comes out, that joust, and you just never want to get on the horse again, never want to get hit like that.
Yeah, and then you don't have your own 2 feet to stand on. Because you don't know, like you said, back to the clients that come in, I don't know who I am. I don't know I've completely lost myself in this thing called love and this thing called a relationship. Yeah, just got swept away. Just drifted off.
I hear you saying that, but what is the practical walkout of how you got there? Because you're in a situation like, I'm feeling very attached to this man. He's not here, and I'm waiting for him to say he loves me because I'm feeling like less than myself today. You're in that moment. So how did you come out? Because that's real. You can say it, but how did you come out, or how did you prepare? Because that moment keeps coming for many people that are watching right now.
Yeah, a lot of conversations, a lot of coaching. So coaches need coaches. And the feedback and the support of community and coaching, I feel like, because then if it's just going to be he and I pinging back and forth, right, there's only so many new perspectives that are going to come up there. And then if I'm sitting by myself pinging back and forth, there's only so many new things that are going to come up there. So the resources of people around me, I've come back to again, that makes such a huge difference.
And I said, you've done it very well. Watch over the last 12 years, like, you stay open to perspective. And everybody has something to add to it. And when you don't stay open, then all you have is your perspective and his perspective.
Yeah, it's pretty limiting.
And you're always going to just position each other. It's like, that's how you see it. It's how I see it. So You allow me to come in and some of the other coaches to come in and say, hey, we're not attached to this relationship. This is what we see. And now it's just a natural, unattached perspective. And you would wear that on and you'd constantly put yourself in that position saying, I feel this way, but I'm open to seeing what your feedback is given what you've created in life. Because you're not just listening to us, you're able to see the relationships we have. And you're like, I see that you're still affected with your relationship because you're able to constantly create this harmonious relationship that keeps growing. So let me hear your perspective.
Yeah.
And then you'd take it in so much perspective and you'd go and meditate on it and wrestle it, and you'd always come back kicking ass. Always come back like, is that just a natural gift, or how do you, like, why do you wear it on? Because some people, I'm sure as a coach, you'll give them some insight, and it's not like you're guessing. You were there. That was past Sarah, and you resisted it, and you wore it on, and now you're here. So you're like, I'm not guessing, this is my feedback, but they don't wear it on. So why do you think that you wore so much of it on, whereas some people don't wear it on?
That is a great question. So I think there's a combination, right, of nature and nurture and what we kind of come in with. And I feel like I've been the type of person to always be open to new ideas or new ways of doing things, and curious, and even kind of wanting people to come into my life that could bring that new perspective. And so I think it's a little bit of what I was putting out, and I was able to see through multiple cycles of that, oh wow, I come out on the other end regardless of what I choose, but with more information and with more things I can pull from and with more support. And so that feels like a win, and so I'll keep going that route. And why others may not or choose not to, up against a lot of denial, up against a lot of like the values being so thick over time, whether through reinforcement or whatnot. And yeah, I think it's a lot of reasons, a big combination. Those are the biggest things that jump out to me right now.
Beautiful. Shonda brought to us, to the whole game, the distinction between intuition and instinct. And when you were speaking, it came up for me like, some people will just go after instinct. And as you understand, instinct is what's been programmed because your environment, conditions, so you're like, boom,
you gotta move into that action, yeah.
Intuition is what's connected to the all, to source. It's just your higher self that takes everything into consideration. So when I say instinct to intuition, how much does that play in you truly listening to the feedback and wearing it on? Do you feel that naturally lean more towards your intuition or your instinct, what you've been taught in college and sororities and all that stuff? Tell me about that.
I feel like it has been an intuition piece, the leaning in. And so I might take something in, I might hit the pause button, like, okay, I've taken all of that in. Like, let's say it's feedback, and let's say it's really tough feedback that I'm not really all that interested in hearing at the time, yet it's very powerful.
So you're saying you got tough feedback in the day? Yes. You're a trooper, sweating, crying. Yeah, I've seen it. Keep going.
So I think there's that, okay, I'm going to hit pause on this for a second and sift and sort through whatever's coming up, and allowing whatever I want to come up, whether it's frustration or I can't believe this person, or I just don't agree with that, and what is there when all of that dust settles. And I think that is very highly intuitively led when I think about it, and I'm very grateful for that. And I, at a young age, had a very strong faith muscle and cultivated that, and I cultivated it in different ways, and at times it looked like a structured religion and a building and a place to go and a prayer to say. It looked like that for a while, and then I feel like that evolved and shifted, and so now I have a different experience of that, but I believe that plays a big part in being able to kind of go through the phoenix to ashes routine that I do every once in a while.
Yeah, beautiful. So what I'm hearing you say is that, fortunately, you had a strong intuition muscle young. And I'm saying that because most people do. They just pretend that they don't because they get programmed out. But intuition is literally the majority of who you are when you come on this earth.
Yeah.
Until it's programmed. And you think you don't, but they do. but somehow you didn't let it get calcified. You didn't let it get overwhelmed by all the vanity of this value-based society, and you just kept saying, you played, and you're like, something deeper. And there's a lot of great people that have come through this game over the years, and they're just beautiful people that help move the game forward, and I love. And very few men as far as you have. So standing outside as a coach and watching you, I'm like, it's amazing that you got this far. I remember when you came into the game, how young were you?
24.
I was like, so you went with some of the other coaches. I'm like, you and Matthew, your husband, I was like, I didn't put no expectation. I'm like, they're young. They have no idea what they're stepping into. They're just like, hey, this is working out. Let's go work out. You know, we're not working out.
Yeah.
I was like, this is way more than working out. But that's how we drew you in. And for you guys to be here shows I know nothing. Because I would never, if I had to pick all the people around, the 24-year-old, there's no way I would figure you made it this far. Because most people, what's the average age of the people that come to us for coaching now?
50.
Yeah. And that's the average age of the person you're coaching right now.
Yeah.
And they're listening because you understand alignment with principle far greater than them. And they know it. Once they see it, it's like humbled, like, wow, all they know is value. So, wow, how powerful is that, huh?
It's humbling. I'm super grateful for it. I don't take it for granted because I know that's not everyone's experience. And like you said, most people coming into the game as a client have decades worth of coding and programming around the value-based living and around everything you said in the instinctual behavior. And it's so possible to break through that, and I see it every day, and we've been able to see it. So for the person listening or hearing part of my story that's like, well, that's just great, you had a faith muscle from the beginning and like that's just so awesome for you. I get that, and it's so possible, even if you feel like that wasn't your experience, or if you do have the decades of the bundled wires of Christmas lights, it's totally possible to unravel that and undo that. And I've seen it, and we've seen it. So just to keep faith there of what's possible, that doesn't have to be everyone's story. And the decades worth of living a certain way could all be very purposeful and intentional on the other side. Once you do make those breakthroughs, you kind of see why it was all worth it to go through the journey.
Thank you for saying that word possibility and being unwavering of the possibility you hold for others, no matter what age. Yeah. So now you have a 50-year-old, which you do all the time, 50, 60-year-old, they're on the call with you, you're coaching, and you see they're entangled in this calcified, value-centered life, and they can't, in this instinctual life, they can't seem to get to that intuition. How do you guide them to that intuition? Because it's there, because they're in your program, but how do you help them when you see they're getting caught up in that calcified instinct? And they're now no longer trusting, or they haven't trusted that intuition for a long time. How do you guide them when you see that?
Building trust, step by step, moment to moment, choice by choice, and to be patient with yourself in the process. Because if it took how many decades to get to this point where we're at now, okay, let's have some patience, and some say grace, we say space. Give yourself the space around that, and building that trust is what's going to strengthen that confidence and that ability to go out and do the things that they do, including how do I put myself first? How do I keep my tank full? So bringing it back to those incremental choices, and just like you would make deposits into your bank account, making deposits into yourself, ka-ching, 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 you raise the value and you appreciate yourself more. And then you're going to hold yourself at a higher regard, and you're going to value, and you're going to have a greater sense of worth. And you're going to carry that into your life. You're going to carry that into your interactions, and it's gonna shake up some things for sure. It does. It shakes up the status quo of relationships, of work environments, of family dynamics, because people are used to having you be a certain way and having you be codependent. So when you start to shift that a bit, you get some responses.
So well said. Yeah. So that's another
that's a whole other thing.
Things that shook up. So you're saying some things got shook up in your life, some people, places, as a result of who you became?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's part of the game. And so for those who are afraid that things are going to shift when they really trust their intuition, what do you have to say to them?
The faith and the trust in self, because as you continue to make those deposits and progress, the way that you hold yourself and the way that you hold your worth, you're having a different level of conversation at that point in time than where you are now, and the worries and the fears that are coming up now. As you raise your energy, as you raise your vibration, as you increase your trust, those aren't your conversations anymore. Because you're at a higher level of understanding yourself, you're at a higher level of mastery, and so that's not, that stuff doesn't come with you.
But since I'm not there now, just tell me, am I going to be able to hold on to them? I know you're talking about features.
Maybe.
Can I hold on to them?
It's a choice. It's a choice. You could.
I just want to hold on to. Just tell me I can hold on to them, that I don't have to leave all these people that are my highest value behind.
Yeah, you can do anything that you want. You can do anything that you want, which is so great. The beauty of choice. I can say from my experience, you likely won't want to.
Wow. So,
you likely won't want to.
So what does your experience tell us? Because there's my hope. I'm over here hoping I can hold on to these folks. And then you're at a different state now, so you're probably not hoping like I am.
Yeah.
So what is your reality telling us about how it really works?
Yeah, that those ideas that I had of these constructs or these people or these things, because we share blood or because we share joint life experiences, that they should be a part of my daily life and that they should be part of my most inner circle. As I got to build my own trust, build my own worth, understand myself better, I'm not as attached to that anymore. And so then those people and those things can do what they want to do, and I'm still going to do what I want to do. And if we choose to engage, then we'll choose to engage, but not at a level that is going to pull at
Codependent?
me. Right.
Yes.
Right.
That sounds
at
like
the detriment. No more detriment.
Wow. So what you're saying is that I can choose who I want to hold on to, but most likely when I get to that vibration, I'll be thinking totally different.
Yes.
And I won't be so attached to who's here and who's not here, because they do tend to come in and come out because I'm whole and complete. I don't need to be attached to them.
Yeah.
And it becomes a more synergistic and aligned dance. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. And I think that's where trust for the process comes in a lot. And I use this analogy with clients often, that what gets you in the door for wanting the shift or wanting the change or wanting the healing may very likely evolve to be a bigger why along the way. So like an example of coming into a gym and saying, I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to lose 20 pounds because I want to fit in this bathing suit by the time I go on this vacation. Okay, great. That's the impetus. That's what gets you in the door. And then as time goes on, if you're in a space like the YDBG that integrates consciousness, lifestyle, and fitness into overall health, then as you are working on your physical fitness, you're working on your lifestyle, the things that you do day in and day out, and your consciousness. So as that shifts and you've really embodied that, as you become healthier and the weight releases, by that time, by the way you're living life three-dimensionally with those things in mind that they contribute to your health, again, fitness, lifestyle, and consciousness, your weight isn't your concern anymore, meaning the number on the scale isn't so much a concern because you've evolved in how you relate to health and wellness. So I feel like similarly, coming in with more of a relationship challenge or something like, I want to fix my marriage. I have to fix my marriage. Okay, well, as you take the journey to true independence, you might see that fixing your marriage wasn't even the problem to begin with, or that may not be the thing that you're motivated or inspired to work on as much, because, and it's great, it's what got you in the door, but I just feel like the trust for the process, because sometimes, you know, you do things, you're like, I'm not really sure why I'm doing this just yet. I'm not really sure why I'm doing this, but I trust my coaches, I trust the process, and then something clicks and you're like, oh, I get why I'm doing this, and this is part of a bigger thing, and I don't have to be told to do this. I'm just doing this because I see how it plays into the bigger picture. So all that, what you said, just made me think of that.
Thank you. You said one thing that I wanted to come back to. You said, trust the process. I heard that. And you said, you might come and say I need to fix my marriage, but you realize that's not the main thing. Because a lot of times it boils down to, I just need to learn to love myself.
Yeah.
And it turns out to be whatever's going to be organically. And it just heals organically, whatever it is. They roll off, they roll up, and it's beautiful because the main issue was, I don't even love myself.
Yeah.
I need to get inside out. So that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And that all happens, like you said, in trusting the process.
Yeah.
And that ties back to what I said earlier when I said this game's about accountability, which is trust. Are you trusting something more powerful than you? This process has over 100,000 hours in it. And collectively, from all the coaches, more than that, probably 1,000,000 hours of patterns that we're saying these are consistent. So when you trust the process and the principle, it's way beyond your intellect.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to see it. You don't have the paradigm perspective to understand yet. So you got to lean on it, count on it, until it circle back so you trust yourself. So you trust yourself to trust the process. And the more you trust the process, you trust yourself. But if you just say, I'm going to trust myself, you're never going to make it.
Right.
So well said. In wrapping up this conversation, what is one of the biggest moments or magical moments or results you've gotten playing the game that you could never imagined when you came in and said, hey, let's work out?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh. All right. I'll say one with that. This is not the one. There's so many, but I have 2 beautiful daughters, and I have been able, ages 8 and almost 2, and I've been able to see, as a result of the now over a decade of deposits of work, of trust, of surrender to the process, to the people around me, I get to see it now play out in them in a way, and even at their ages, even at two, to see how she receives who we are as people for her, as her parents, and then her extended community of aunties and uncles, to see what she picks up, and then my older, what she picks up. That's something that I had no context could be a part of my mothering experience. I thought I wanted to be a mother. I was pretty clear that would happen at some point in life, but I did not know I would be able to be a mother at this level with this type of technology, so to speak, and this type of living life in a way to pass that on and empower my daughters to choose whatever they want, yet this is going to be the example I'm going to be. That's just something my brain could not have handled at one point, that I could actually not just do it for myself, right, love myself, but that I could impart that and I could pass that on to another generation, particularly of young women.
And already
Incredible.
See it working, already seeing the feedback, like, wow.
Already, yep.
Magical children. And I get to be around them, and they're truly extraordinary.
Yeah.
Because their mom and dad are extraordinary.
Yes.
And so I'm going to wrap up with this. A conversation that came up recently is either what I'm doing with our kids, because I have 3 kids as well, either they're going to work their whole life to overcome it or become it. And right now you're saying that you're so convicted in who you're being that you realize that, or you believe that whether they choose it now or later, that they're going to work to become who you are, whether they get it now, as opposed to try to overcome because of your unhealthy habits or ineffective ways of living.
Right.
So I got what you're saying. They're going to work to become, because you love who you're becoming.
Yeah, and the space that I hold for them as a result of the space I hold for myself. Yeah.
Clear, beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Welcome. My name is Coach Day, and I'm the architect of the YourDay Balance Game, also known as the YDBG, where the objective is to make every day your day. Now, if you really enjoyed that video, then press that button and subscribe, and also hit that notification, because every week when we release these videos, we can learn how to go from codependent to true independent, so you start living a life that you're truly worth. I look forward to seeing the game, and remember, make every day your day.